Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Monday, November 18th edition of our video devotionals. We appreciate you being with us today, and I hope your Monday's going well. It is the beginning of the work week and school week once again, and we got a beautiful day here in Central North Carolina, and we're going to get some leaves up here in just a moment. Some of you have realized I've done some videos from this position, and you saw the leaves, and many of them are gone now, but they're on the ground. They got to be gotten up, so that's okay. We'll get to that a little bit later. So we hope you've had a great weekend. It's Sunday, of course, and we hope that everything is going well your way. We're not really going to do a theme today. We're going to look at something, part of my Bible readings. I read through the Bible one year. Give you something here from Acts chapter 28, Acts 28 verses 1 through 6. So if you will find that, if it's your custom, otherwise we're going to jump right into it and read this. But we do appreciate everybody who watches these videos so very much. All right, notice here in verse 1 it says, "And when they were escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita." So Paul, of course, is being transported to Rome because he's going to stand before Caesar. And there's a lot to this story. But when he was arrested or gathered up and captured, if you please, in Jerusalem. But they're headed that way, and there's this great storm, and lasts for a long time. And it looks like they're all going to die. And Paul finally says, look, if you'd listened to me at the beginning, I told you something like this was going to happen. God revealed it to me. But if you listen to me, we'll all make it. So they all make it to this island here. It's called Melita. It says, "And the barbarous people, barbarians, showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one because of the present rain and because of the cold. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat and fastened on his hand. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hanging on his hand, they said among themselves, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom, though he hath escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth not to live. And he shook off the beast into the fire and felt no harm. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly, but after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god." Very interesting story to me. First of all, the thing jumps out to me is here's Paul. They're all on the island. I like the fact he's gathering sticks. Maybe everybody was, I don't know, but he didn't just sit on the sideline and say, well, let somebody else do it. He was doing. I like that part. Then, of course, he gets bit by the poisonous snake. Should have died by normal circumstances. I believe God protected him from that, obviously. But it's the judgment of these barbarians, these people who don't know God, this quick judgment that they made. And both from one extreme to the other. So they say he's bit by this poison snake and he's going to die. Okay, he didn't drown in the sea, but he's going to die because of venomous beast. In their mind, hey, there's justice right there. He's a murderer. Must have been a murderer. Okay, obviously way off. They didn't know that, but that was their judgment. Then when he lives, then they say, well, he goes from being a murderer all of a sudden, who's got the judgment of the gods against him, so to speak, to being a god. And so notice that very quick judgment. To me, that's typical of the world. It's typical of people who don't have the direction and the guidance from God that God gives us. We should never make conclusions like that. We don't know if God directly reveals something to us. I understand that, but in this case, it's almost like when something bad happens to people that we say, well, that if they're a Christian, we say, well, they're out of the will of God. Or if they're not a Christian, well, that's because they're not a Christian. We go to quick judgments like that sometimes. Should not do that. And then, of course, when he lived, they say, well, he must have been a god. We know he wasn't a god anyway because he's a human being. He's not God. So that's their mindset. But we as Christians need to be very careful about making similar type of judgments, similar ways of judging people. Job's friends came to him and they misjudged the situation. These were not heathen people. These are people that knew God, but they made a wrong judgment, of course, and they were wrong. And so I'm just saying on this Monday, when you get into life and see things happen, we must all be very careful when we see things happen and say, well, there you go. There's the world uses the word karma. They got it because that's the way it is, or bad luck. You know what? There's a God. God allows things to happen. There are things that happen to God's people or anybody that's not the judgment of God. And in this case, you think about it, he's bit by a snake. It certainly got these barbarians' attention. Though Paul wasn't a god, they certainly had some respect for him and thought, wow. And of course, we know later on Paul's going to help the chief's father, God's going to give him means to help the chief's father live. So the point is, let's go to God with our judgment calls. Let's go to God. We don't necessarily have to make judgments anyway, but what we need to say, God, you know, and we're gonna allow you to be God. And if there's anything you reveal to us that helps us be what we need to be or know what we need to know, then so be it. But it's an interesting story. But he went from being a murderer to being a God in these people's eyes. So let's trust God's judgment for him to help us and to be patient in all the things we see, and certainly allow God to help us be what we need to be to anybody. All right, have a great day, safe day, healthy day. Lord willing, we'll see you back on Tuesday, and thank you for watching.